the word of the day, and let's just pretend it's one word, is all digital. Because in case you haven't known, the Audio-Technica ATH-DSR7BT are amongst the first headphones leading away into a new era of headphones, an all digital kind of era that is. What exactly that means though, I'm gonna tell you a little bit later on, so let's get first into what we actually get. Besides the headphones themselves, obviously we also get this very nice synthetic leather carrying pouch, which maybe won't give it much more than basic protection, but at least it feels and looks very good. We also get this 2 meter long micro USB cable, which is quite clunky and not all that great, and you would think that's okay since I won't use it all that much besides for charging. That's actually not right, since this is also the only solution if you want to use them wired to listen to music, since, yep, this has no 3.5mm jack. And that's why I would recommend to just replace this micro USB cable with something a little bit more flexible, because obviously on the go you will use Bluetooth, but at home this is still not a convenient, not a flexible, not a comfortable solution. But let's check the design here now before we are getting into those digital inputs and all that. Now, the headphones themselves look like most other Audio-Technicas look, that's all fine. The padding here is actually thicker on the top than it is on the bottom where you would need it, but that's all fine. But the one thing that really bothers me is this whole squeaking and all those sounds from those hinges, because the quality of the materials they used is actually fine, and the build, everything is fine with this mix of metal and plastic, but I'm not quite sure why it does have to make so many sounds. Maybe that's just on my unit, I'm not quite sure. So let's just see that what it is. Obviously we can rotate them but not fold them, which is okay. So let's actually get into the controls. We have this play pause button also for calls, the volume rocker and the micro USB port that you will need for wired use, which is just not a very elegant solution. On the other side we get the on and off. So that's pretty much already it. Obviously we have to get into the pads, and that's actually one of my smaller gripes here, because even though they look quite big, especially for example in comparison with the Sony A1 Mark II, it looks like you would have a lot more space for your ears, which is actually not the case, because this is not memory foam and it's not super thick, and you don't really have much space below that, and that's why it still feels for me like I'm a little bit trapped in here. And since it's not super soft, and I would actually wish for it to be thicker, it's not the most comfortable one. Obviously you could replace the pads, and if you find some better ones, that's something that I would recommend, because the weird thing is on the Sony it looks like you have a lot less space, but here we have this super soft memory foam, especially on the sides, and this has a lot of space beneath it, and that's why these are way more comfortable. But the next point already, which is a minor thing, is since they are rotatable, you would expect to be able to use them like this, but this, at least for me, actually almost strangles me. That is a normal thing, I get that, because the Sony do pretty much the same, and the only headphones that I know of that I've used personally are the Cloud Alpha from HyperX that allow this for a comfortable use. But like I said, that's a minor thing, so let's get into the actual comfort now. Let me put them on and let me tell you what I think. So first of all, the clamping force is a little bit on the higher side, but that is okay because you want to have them secure, especially if you are on the go. The next thing is the padding on the top, which is okay, even though I have no hair. This is not the problem because most of the weight will be distributed towards the sides due to the clamping force. Now, like I said, I would wish for thicker pads just so I have a little bit more breathing room in all dimensions, because they are a little bit too small. Not actually too small, but since there is not a lot of wiggle room, I feel a little bit cramped in, just a little bit. This is still an above average comfort, don't get me wrong, but I personally prefer a lot space into it, and most headphones that I've used, especially the Bluetooth ones, actually had even less space, so I am okay with it for the most part. But for long-term usability, I would wish for something a little bit more comfortable, something that gives me more space. But other than that, there's not really much to complain about. So the next thing would be isolation. I actually don't hear things a lot more quiet than I would with a closed one, but I hear them just mostly muffled, which is okay, I guess. The leakage, of course, is like a normal headphone. So let's actually get into the digital part and all that. So the first moment when I put them on, this is my biggest gripe for them personally. If you use them with Bluetooth, they support AAC, they support aptX and aptX HD, so you are covered here and you get great quality. But what I don't get personally, and it seems to be an Audio-Technica thing, I don't get nearly enough volume. I would need at least 15, if not 20% more to get the volume that I need. And I know I obviously listen way too loud, but to kind of evaluate a headphone properly, like all the other ones, I need the volume that I'm usually used to, which I didn't get. So I thought I would just use it with the 3.5mm jack until I actually realized it hasn't one. So then I used the USB cable, But since the DAC and the powering is all going on in here, it doesn't make a difference. So you get, obviously due to the cable, no kind of Bluetooth compression, and you get an even better quality, and that is nice. And it is obviously still a little bit clearer, opener, and better. But the volume is still the same, and it's not good enough for me. There is no noise cancellation, which I have no problem with that in case I get better sound. And this is already the thing that it leads me to. Because use them Bluetooth or use them with USB-C, you won't get enough volume. But let's talk about the actual sound. I am actually very happy with the sound because this is one of the few Bluetooth headphones, actually one of the pretty much only ones that I'm fully pleased with the sound signature and the way that the qualities of that sound. Like I said, I would wish for it to be louder so I would have the usual experience that I have, but the sound signature is actually quite flat, not super neutral, and due to the closed headphone system, the soundstage obviously is a little bit smaller. It's not super wide, and it's not an airy sound, which is something that I personally want, but usually you don't really have Bluetooth headphones that are open back. But otherwise, I couldn't really tell that the bass is too warm or anything is kinda too cold or anything like that. So that's why it's quite neutral. I actually saw reviews where they said they were too bright, which I totally don't agree, because I would actually wish for them to be even brighter, but that's just because I like a little bit brighter soundstage or in general sound signature. But the bass, very nice and precise. It could maybe be a little bit more punchy, but I'm happy with that just because it's not bloated or kind of too thick or too thin. So the balance here is right. The transition towards the mids is good, so there is no kind of gap, which is also not present for the highs. Now personally, maybe a little bit of a bump on the upper mids would be nice so vocals stand out a little bit more, just because that's what I personally prefer. But the overall clarity is on a good level. But like I said, I would wish for it to be a little bit more open, a little bit more airy, a little bit more bright. Now obviously with an equalizer you can get that, but I can't fault the overall general qualities of this one because everything is nicely balanced, nothing feels out of balance. The vocals feel nicely in range with the instruments. And it is a very nice all-rounder because I can listen to electronic music and dubstep and all that, even though you won't have the monster extreme bass that some other Bluetooth headphones will deliver. But this is way better for just normal music, for pop, for also classical music, for metal and everything. It can do everything very well. It's maybe not specialized for something, but I prefer this more neutral, but I definitely wouldn't call it bland or boring or flat sound signature over what you usually get. And that's what I'm applauding them for. Someone having the guts or the balls to just make an, let's say, mostly audiophile sound on Bluetooth, which is something that I usually never get. Usually it's bass without an end, not enough highs and no mids at all. This is what you will get here. So the quality is good, but if I would have to get already to the conclusion, for a price of around $300, what I would wish for it to be changed on the next version: improve the build quality, get that squeaking out of the way, maybe make the cutout for the ears a little bit bigger, make the pads a little bit thicker to improve the overall long-term listening experience. Maybe still give me a 3.5mm jack just so I can listen loud enough if I want to with a dedicated amp DAC combination, because for me, and that is my main issue here, it's just not loud enough. For all normal people, I know that from my phone reviews and such, most people will be fine with this volume. I'm personally not, and that's why I personally wouldn't really use them. But can I recommend them? If it just comes down to a decent comfort, actually above average comfort, and you want a very nice neutral experience without having a kind of mainstream bloated V-shaped soundstage, then this so far is actually one of my favorites. Like I said, I can't really evaluate it too much since I couldn't really get used to it, just because I couldn't use them like I'm usually used to. Other than that, battery is, I think, rated at about 30 hours. I'm not quite sure. I didn't really test them long enough to check the battery, so that's something you can maybe check somewhere else. But yeah, I've said what I think about it, and I can't really change much more about that. So in general, a lot of potential, but the important factors for me: volume. I need more volume. But if you don't, then it might be just right for you. So that's it. Until next time, bye.